Hello.
Yeah, sorry about the bad camera quality. I was trying to fix that all morning and it just decided not to work with me. So this is what I got.
It's all good. I can work with that.
All right. So how you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's like I said, been a long morning, but ready to go now.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I got a newborn son. He's 2 months old now, so I'm on like a pretty early schedule also. So my day started like 4 hours ago. So
Yeah, no, I actually got it. I was trying to set it up. I was juggling my 6 month old, so I get it.
yeah,
All right. So I think we're ready to go though. Are you all good on your end?
yeah, I can hear everything good. Sound level's good on my side.
All right, great. Well,
Cool.
welcome to another Kid Writes interview. Today we have, do you prefer to go by RC Hausen or Chris Hausen?
I mean, I write under RC Hausen, but I mean, I go by Chris in my personal life. So you can call me Chris. That's fine.
All right, so we got Chris Hausen here with us. He is the author of the book Cosmovorous. And as a special bonus this time, I actually have a physical copy. Yay!
Hey, cool.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
Well, I'm 43, live in Round Rock, Texas. Have 3 kids, 2 daughters, and a son. And I've always been into reading, horror literature, horror fiction stuff. That was like, the first book I read was Treasure Island when I was, I think, 10 years old. I liked the scary parts of that. 3 years later, I laid into the Dark Half by Stephen King. There's a scene where Alexis Machine pops an eyeball with a paper clip that I still remember. It sticks with me. So I always loved the stuff, and like I remember always getting lost in books. And about 3-4 years ago, I just kind of decided I wanted to start writing. I started, looking at the stuff that was out there in the horror fiction, horror literature world, and it was just like it felt like there was like a renaissance happening there. Like the voices that were being heard were so eclectic, and there were just so much experimental stuff going, and just people, reinventing tropes, and it just seemed really exciting. And I was like, I wanted to be part of that. And with the resources that are available now, it seemed like something that was accessible to me, and so I just started pursuing that.
Yeah, yeah. So we go ahead and for the audience, sum up what Cosmovorous is about.
So Cosmovorous is my attempt at a cosmic horror story. I was trying to kind of put it in a more modern light, because I know a lot of cosmic horror I love the stuff. It's very Lovecraftian pastiche, always like some very learned an individual, usually a man, like a lot of smoking pipes and studies and esoteric knowledges and archaeology and things like that. And I like that. I just wanted to bring it into more of what I understand, because I come from a very working class background. I don't really have any secondary education to speak of. I graduated high school and that's about it. And so I wanted to kind of write a story that dealt with the kind of cosmic horror and the kind of these, like I said, esoteric knowledge and these nebulous sort of entities that focused on somebody who was not a person of status or stature. I wanted to keep it with somebody who had a job that might get overlooked, somebody who gets overlooked in life a lot. And my background in my adult life was I played in bands and I hung out in like the live music scene a lot of underground like rock and metal and punk stuff. And so I didn't want to write about somebody in a band, because those, once again, they get a lot of attention. I wanted to write about the bar back, like the girl or the lady who works, to make all that happen, to make sure the drinks are there, not even the bartender, not even that level of status, the bar back, like literally the person who's like kind of like, on the entry level of it. And that was kind of where I wanted to start with that. And I wanted to touch on themes of addiction, themes of self-loathing, dark thoughts, a little bit of suicidal ideations. I wanted to kind of things that I think most people have dealt with, that we've kind of removed some of the stigma with that stuff, and we're talking about that more openly. And so I kind of wanted to bring that and kind of, marry those things up with the supernatural horror. And so I kind of, when I started out, it was going to be a 10,000 word short story. And so I started working on that because there was a submission. I can't remember who it was I was going to try and submit it to. And so I was working towards that, and I wrote it in 10,000 words, but I was looking at what I did and I realized how truncated it was. And I had a friend of mine who's extremely honest, in a very positive way, read it. And his feedback was I should probably look into, like plot building, narrative flows, things of that nature, like, how to do that. And so I went and I decided I wasn't going to submit the story, that this story had grown legs, if you will, and this was something that could be bigger than this 10,000 word long short story. And so I stopped writing and left it there, and I went and I started studying a lot of, like, your craft books. So I started with Save the Cat. I got a copy of that right here. And I recommend this to anyone who's getting started. This book very much helped. And I have this here. This is like it's cool little Lovecraftian notebook where I actually went and did the plotting and the story development and all the stuff that it tells you that it advises to do in that. And it definitely helped me write a close to 300-page novel that hits like plot beats and has like it's a cohesive narrative. And I think that I probably would not have been able to pull that off had I not stepped back and kind of educated myself in the theory of how to do that. Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's very good. No, like that's exactly the kind of things we want to be talking about on this show, is that it's, there's a process behind this. There's a lot of work goes into trying to write a story that frankly you have to do for free and that nobody ever sees. It's learning how story structure works. It's reading Save the Cat. It's watching videos. It's learning how this stuff works. And you did talk a lot about how you wanted to write a cosmic horror for more of a working class, which does bring up, obviously, the elephant in the room whenever you're talking about cosmic horror is Lovecraft himself.
Yeah.
Especially in a post Jordan Peele Lovecraft Country world, people are definitely talking about this. So one of the things I think as anybody writing cosmic horror you have to do is try and figure out a way to, I feel like modernize is the wrong word, but it's the only one I can think of right now. So modernize Lovecraft. Like modernize his style a little bit. So what sort of things did you really like, no, this has to be in there? And what sort of things were you like, I'm going to avoid this flat out?
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to avoid that. I think it's that they call it Gary Stu, Peggy Sue storytelling, where your protagonist is like an idealized version of how you would want to be, and the way that they resolve everything is they're just the best at everything. They have, like, every skill possible. And so I wanted to test my empathy and test my ability to step into someone else's shoes. And so I was like, I wanted to write a first person narrative. I wanted the protagonist to be a woman. And so I thought that would kind of put me in a place where I had to kind of go and think from a spot of more inclusivity, and get away from that kind of the boys club that a lot of, like I said, the older cosmic horror kind of leaned into. And so that was definitely something I wanted to avoid, was writing like a boys club kind of story, and so I wanted to try and really understand what it was like a bit to grow, to be a female in today's world and deal with some of the things like the experience that I had in rock clubs and bars and doing that and looking at it from their perspective a bit more, and so I definitely wanted to try and get into that. So it was a lot of looking at looking at my daughters and trying to think of how the world they're going to experience is going to be, and the things that they might encounter, and seeing how they react to things now that are scary to them, and just trying to understand someone other than myself was a big thing that I wanted to do with it. And I wanted to there's definitely a same-sex love story in there, a lesbian love story in there, and I wanted to do that very tastefully. I didn't want that to be exploitive or like some kind of like women in prison kind of, like the old Cinemax kind of stuff. I wanted to avoid that kind of stuff. I wanted it to be really respectful and really tasteful, because I felt like I was somebody writing in a world that I don't live in, and it's like I don't want to be like an ugly tourist, if you will. Somebody comes in and just looks to exploit and to kind of like act like a fool and not be respectful. So those were things that I wanted to. That was more. I set that at the beginning. That was something I had to be mindful of the whole time when I was writing it. And then just I wanted it to have a very gritty setting at first. I wanted it to feel very like kind of urban at first. I wanted that inner city kind of feeling to it. And because that was where the majority of these bars and things that I went to were at. And so I wanted to kind of capture that feeling a bit. And so that was something that was very important to me. And then, I wanted to have the body horror. I wanted to have that you find in cosmic horror. I wanted to have, it's, you try and be original, but it's hard to get away from the tentacles, man, and the antennas and all the proboscis, and it's hard to get away from that.
Look,
that's
octopuses are freaky. Let's just admit it.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned growing up being a Stephen King fan as well. I feel like if we're going to talk about Lovecraft, we also got to talk about Stephen King in cosmic horror, because frankly, he's less terrible of a person than Lovecraft was. So yeah. How has Stephen King influenced you as a cosmic horror writer?
Well, I mean, it is obviously like a cosmic horror story. I mean, it's, everything about that was a huge influence on me. I feel like elements of the Dark Tower saga definitely got into that, the idea of multiverses and the bleed from one universe into another. So that stuff was definitely influential. It was also trying to avoid copying that kind of stuff. Also, like if something felt familiar or felt too much in his wheelhouse, then I would back away from that. I don't think he writes a lot in first person, not that I can recall. And so that kind of helped a little bit. Well, that was also just from being an amateur and me starting out, is that first person, present tense kind of was easy to start with. Like the story started, it was like, it was almost like 3 years to this day. I think it was like October 18th. I think I did a drive from Houston to my house here, and I drank too many energy drinks on the way. And so I got home and I couldn't fall asleep. And so I was like, well, I should probably write. And so, I got here and I started writing, and I just went off on this kind of stream of consciousness and wound up with what ended up being Cosmovorous in about a 4-hour writing period. I kind of went off tangent there again. Sorry, I did that.
No, yeah. Hey, that's the style. That's the format of these videos. Go on your tangents.
Oh, cool. And so that kind of helped with keeping away from like feeling like I was stepping into what he has done before, trying to avoid that, which is hard because he's so prolific. I mean, he's done so much that it's almost like that South Park episode where they're kept. The Simpsons already did it. The Simpsons did it when they were trying to think of something. It's kind of like we dealing with him. It's kind of like that, especially when in the Cosmovorous, I do have the flashback chapters where it goes back. It's definitely not to the extent that a book like it is, where he literally wrote 2 separate stories that occur at 2 different points and mirror each other. I just kind of give glimpses where I think that they're important for like a not chronological storytelling, but logical storytelling. As in, I think after this event, this information would probably be good to receive, and it would enhance what just happened, and kind of give you some insight as to what the significance was.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you mentioned music and the bar scene being a big influence on you. Are there any specific artists that just stand out as like really inspiring your writing, or?
I mean, I used to, and I still am into like a lot of like punk rock and metal. I can't write when listening to that because the lyrics kind of distract me.
I feel
So
that.
yeah, so I do a lot of instrumental stuff. I got really into like dark synth wave and like kind of dark lo-fi beat stuff to listen to when I write. So the John Carpenter is hugely influential, and not just his movies. I mean, without a doubt, The Thing is a huge influence on what I was doing in Cosmovorous. But his music, I love his music, and in fact, I think it was the end of the year last year on Spotify. They do that thing where they tell you about your listening habits, and I think I was in like the top like 0.1% of John Carpenter listeners. Like I think that I might have listened to his music more than anybody on the globe, or like maybe you could probably maybe 5 of us could sit in this room that had listened to it that much. So he was like a big musical influence on it. There's an artist named Perturbator. I like his stuff a lot. There's another artist called Arthur and Punisher. Their stuff. I've been listening to this guy named Dated. Or it might be a woman. I don't know. It's just they just go by Dated, and they do dark lo-fi beats. I kind of discovered that this year, and been listening to that a lot. But when I was writing Cosmovorous, without a doubt, it was John Carpenter, Perturbator, Terratron was another guy or another artist I was listening to, and then the Mandy. I'm wearing the Cheddar Goblin shirt because I like Mandy a lot. I like the soundtrack to that movie a lot. I'm not sure who did the soundtrack to it, but I like that soundtrack. It was cool. So those were huge influences. As far as like in the book, the musical influences in the book, I was trying to capture that early 90s, right before all of that broke into the mainstream. There was like this really weird, almost genreless, just underground heavy music that people were extremely excited to go to. I mean, it's I don't ever like to harp on the past, like you can't recapture that, or like it was so much better. But I remember we were more naive then, I guess, because that was more of a novel thing, going and seeing live music that wasn't the Rolling Stones in a stadium. You could go to a club that some of the places weren't much bigger than this garage. I mean, and see bands playing something loud and passionate amongst a small group of people, and I remember how exciting that was. So I kind of wanted to capture that a bit, and so I was listening to bands like current bands that made me capture that feeling. And there's a band called Black Tusk. They're out of Georgia. I like them a lot. They were a pretty big influence on the character development, I guess, if you will. I wanted like the tone of their music was sort of the attitude I wanted to give Esmeralda when she was encountering these cosmic malevolent entities that meant her harm. I wanted her to have that kind of like scrappiness to her, and so I would listen to them a lot when I was lifting weights and stuff like that. But when I was sat down to write, I put on like the dark synth or like the beats or the John Carpenter music, and because that way I wouldn't get interrupted with the lyrics.
All right. Sorry, my brain just suddenly decided to draw a blank. This is becoming a habit. Like, this is my 3rd interview now, and every single one, my brain has forgotten what question I was about to ask just before I asked it. ADHD is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So how did you wind up publishing?
I self-published it, and I know that there's still a bit of a stigma to that. I know it's seen as lesser than. I totally understand that, and the reason why I did it, because I feel like the traditional publishers, they're people who have put years into this. Like I'm just now scratching the surface, in this career or this attempt at a career or this, whatever I'm doing with this. I'm just getting started. And there are people who have put decades into this. And I know that they're seeing a diminishing market because people just don't read as much. It's easier to look at your phone and get lost in endless videos. You can stream you can watch literally anything you want to watch. You can pick up an object and press a button and it's like there. So I know that I know people read less. And so I know that they're dealing with a diminishing market. And then there is the self-publishing thing, which I know is kind of eating into that a bit. But I know that you like the big five is now the big four, or is it the big four is the big three? I can't remember, but I know that
I'd have to look it up.
I think Penguin bought Simon and Schuster, but there's one less major publishing house than there used to be. And then there's these indie publishers that are out there and they're trying to develop these people who have been at it for years. And I didn't want to take up that space. And I'm just weird that way. I didn't want to take up that space. I didn't want to bother anybody. And so I was like, I'm going to just do this on my own. And I reached out to people who do freelance editing, hired a couple of people for that. I hired somebody who runs a small indie press, Rooster Republic. I reached out to them and they got their art team to design the cover, or it was a pre-made cover. They actually had it for sale as a pre-made cover. And I saw it and I was like, that looks almost identical to what I see in my head when I'm writing this. This is like, it is like kismet or synchronicity. So I need to buy that. So I, bought that, and I was like, I'm just going to learn to do this on my own, because I also, I kind of branded myself with the whole I write at night thing, on Bookstagram. I decided that was going to be my tag. I can't show it now. I have a poster that I had my sister-in-law designed of a logo for that. So I was going to publish under my own imprint, like do this all on my own. So I'm not crowding up anybody's inboxes, and if what I do is good and I'm just going to keep working at it, people will notice. And then maybe on the second or third attempt at publishing something, then I'll feel like what I'm writing is of a level that is worth these people's time who are already struggling to keep this thing going. Maybe that's a bit of me and the imposter syndrome that I tend to bring into everything at habit. But it just felt like kind of like paying my dues before I started submitting things to people too much, or trying to like, oh, look at this book. And I feel like I wanted to kind of make sure I could do this and then get it out there and get some feedback and make sure it's something that people actually even like.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. So now we're in the fun promo stage of the interview. So where all is your book available for anybody who wants to buy it?
You can get it on Barnes and Noble. You can get it on Amazon. I published through Ingram Spark, and I published through KDP. So that's pretty much the entire market there, because as far as distribution. So there's this version of the book, which has the matching cover, which the guys from Rooster Republic did that for me. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. The version that I sent to you is the Amazon version, where I did the back cover myself, so it's just a plain black cover. That one's on Amazon. You can get it on you can get the ebook on godless.com, and that's like an indie horror ebook site. I think they're getting into audiobooks now. They don't do physical copies, but they do ebooks there. So godless.com, you can get it there. Or you can go to my webpage. It's I-write-at-night.com, and it has when you enter it, it has like the links to wherever you can buy it at. So I wanted to make sure it was available everywhere.
All right. And is there anything else you'd like to plug right here?
No, just if you're somebody out there who's trying to do this, then I definitely suggest getting some of the writing, especially if you're just getting started in self-publishing, because I know that I talked about the traditional publishing authors, and I know that those years they spent getting those rejection letters, writing stuff and rewriting stuff. I know that there's a lot of experience and knowledge they gleaned from that. And I know that the self-publishing is so easy to do. If you want to, you can do it. I just caution to that not everything you write needs to be published, because I know that those people who did it the traditional way, I'd say a big percentage of what they wrote never got seen by anybody. So just because you can doesn't mean you should necessarily. And I definitely advise to go out and get some of those craft books and try and level up to level your knowledge up, and so to where what you're putting out there is of the highest quality you can do. Because I think if you're going to do it, you deserve that for yourself, and so invest that time into yourself, and then I think you'll get a result. I'm very proud of what I did. You know, regardless of if anybody ever reads it outside of my little circle of friends, they've all read it and they loved it, they enjoyed it, it was fun, and so it wouldn't have been as good had I not stopped and taken for about 4 months of just studying and doing the exercises and writing and rewriting before I actually sat down to try and write a novel that I wanted to try and share with people. So that would be my advice.
All right. Well, again, I have been Michael Kidd. This has been Chris Hausen. He publishes under RC Hausen at I Write at Night, or I-write-at-night.com. You can check out my stuff at kidwrites.com, or I have an ongoing Kindle Vella cosmic horror series myself called Divided. I don't think I pronounced that right. Wow, I'm having a day. Okay.
What was that called? I want to check it out.
Divided.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, I think episode 5 is releasing sometime in the next 72 hours, so that'll be fun. Yeah, no, so that's yeah. So like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And Chris, it was great having you on.
It was great being here, Michael. I really appreciate the opportunity and the interest. It's really flattering, and this has been a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah, and happy Halloween.
Hey, you too. Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Bye.